The massive warship drifted through the darkness of space like a nightmare made real. Its black hull stretched over 2 miles long, covered in sharp spikes and glowing red lights that pulsed like a beating heart. Inside the command center, War Prince. Kethter stood 12 feet tall on his powerful legs. His body was covered in thick, dark armor that grew from his own skin. Sharp claws extended from his hands, each one capable of tearing through steel. His face was a terrifying mask of bone and chitin, with 4 glowing yellow eyes that missed nothing. Kethtor watched the view screen as another planet surrendered without a fight. The pale blue world below had been home to the Marani people for thousands of years. They begged for mercy through their communication channels, their voices shaking with pure terror. "Please, mighty Vakthul," came the desperate voice of their planetary leader. "We offer no resistance. We'll give you whatever you want. Just spare our people." The War Prince clicked his mandibles together in what passed for laughter among his kind. This was how it always went. His reputation traveled faster than his ships. By the time the Vakthul fleet arrived at any world, the inhabitants were already preparing to surrender. "Another pathetic display," Kethter said to his second-in-command, Sub-Prince Vergen. "These soft creatures have no courage at all." Vergen's own claws scraped against the metal floor as he moved closer. "We take the planet, my lord. Our mineral resources would serve the hegemony well." "Of course," Kethtar replied, "but there is no sport in it, no challenge. They fall to their knees before we even show them our strength." For 300 years, this pattern had repeated itself across 17 star systems. The Vakthul hegemony had grown from a single world of fierce predators into the most feared empire in known space. Their very name caused entire civilizations to flee or surrender. Immediately, the Vakthul had evolved on a death world where only the strongest and most vicious survived. Their bodies were living weapons. They could spit acid that melted through starship armor. Their claws could cut diamond. Their thick exoskeletons could withstand direct hits from plasma weapons. Most importantly, they had no concept of mercy or fear. Every species they encountered had evolved differently. The gentle Marani were herbivores who had never known war. The crystal-bodied Nethians were ancient and wise, but physically weak. The gas-floating Zephyrians were peaceful traders who avoided all conflict. Even the most warlike races, like the militant Kuran Empire, crumbled when faced with the sheer horror of fighting the Vakthul. The Galactic Council, which once governed trade and diplomacy between worlds, now existed only to rubber-stamp Vakthul expansion. Their meetings were held in fear, their decisions made to avoid angering the predators who truly ruled the galaxy. "Sir," came a voice from the communication station. "We're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They're requesting our presence at an emergency session." Kethter's eyes blazed brighter. "Let me guess. Another species wishes to surrender territory before we take it by force?" "Actually, sir, it's about something else. They say a new species has been detected. At the edge of Council space, the initial contact team has gone silent. This was unusual. Most species made contact through the Council's diplomatic channels, following established protocols that had kept the peace for centuries. When those protocols were followed, new species learned about the Vakthul through stories and warnings. They knew to be afraid before they ever saw a Vakthul ship. A new species, Kethter mused. "How long has it been since we encountered truly fresh prey?" 57 standard years, my lord. The last were the Aquarian colonies, and they surrendered after seeing just one of our scout ships. Kethter felt something he had not experienced in decades. Curiosity. Perhaps even excitement. The constant stream of easy victories had grown boring. His warriors were growing soft from lack of real combat. His own claws had not tasted fresh blood in far too long. "Set course for the council chambers," he commanded. "But first, send word to the fleet commanders. I want our fastest ships, prepared for immediate deployment. If this new species thinks they can ignore proper surrender protocols, they will learn why the galaxy fears the Vakthul." As his flagship turned toward the council's meeting place, Kethter allowed himself to imagine the possibilities. Perhaps This new species would provide some entertainment before they inevitably begged for mercy. Perhaps they would at least try to fight back before surrendering. The thought of actual combat made his acid glands salivate. He had no way of knowing that this new species came from a small blue world they called Earth. He could not imagine that they had evolved not as prey animals hiding from predators, but as persistent hunters who chased their quarry across vast distances until it collapsed from exhaustion. He had never encountered a species that had spent its entire evolutionary history learning to kill its own kind with ever-increasing efficiency. The war prince of the most feared empire in the galaxy was about to discover that terror was a weapon that only worked on those who had learned to feel it. The exploration ship Harmony drifted peacefully through space, its blue and white hull gleaming under the light of a distant star. Captain Lee Dong-ho sat in his command chair reviewing the day's research reports. His crew of 200 scientists, engineers, explorers had been mapping this sector for 3 months, cataloging new planets and searching for signs of life. Captain called out Communications Officer Park So-young from her station, picking up multiple ships approaching fast. The signatures are unlike anything in our database. Dong-ho looked up from his tablet. How many ships? 15. No. 20 vessels. They're big, sir. Much larger than anything we've built. Science Officer Kim Gin-woo spun in his chair, excitement clear in his voice. This could be our first contact with an alien civilization. The xenobiology team will be thrilled. Dr. Choi Min-young, the ship's lead scientist, hurried onto the bridge carrying her research equipment. Are we really about to meet aliens? This is incredible. Do we have any data on their biology yet? Before anyone could answer, the view screen flickered to life. A massive black warship filled the display, its hull covered in menacing spikes and glowing red lights. The ship was easily 10 times larger than the Harmony. Wow, whispered engineer Jang Subin. Look at that design. It's clearly built for intimidation as much as function. Park So-young's console beeped urgently. Sir, incoming transmission. Audio only, but the translation software is working on their language. Put it through, Dong-ho ordered, leaning forward. With interest, a harsh, clicking voice filled the bridge. The translator worked quickly, converting the alien sounds into Korean. Unknown vessel. You have entered Vacthul space without permission. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Prepare to be boarded. The bridge fell silent for a moment. Then, Gin-woo chuckled softly. Well, they're certainly direct. Dong-ho rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Interesting first contact protocol. Very different from our diplomatic approaches. He looked at his communications officer. So-young, open a channel. Let's try to establish proper dialogue. Channel open, sir, says Captain Lee Dong-ho of the Earth vessel Harmony. We're explorers from the planet Earth, conducting peaceful scientific research. We weren't aware this area was claimed territory. We'd be happy to discuss this situation through proper diplomatic channels. The response came quickly and with obvious irritation. There will be no discussion. Surrender now. We are boarding your vessel. Dr. Choi looked up from her instruments, barely containing her excitement. Captain, their ship is launching smaller craft, probably boarding pods. And look at these readings. Their technology is fascinating. The power signatures suggest some kind of acid-based propulsion system. Acid-based? Gin-woo leaned over to see her screen. That's brilliant. No wonder their ships look so organic. They've probably bioengineered their technology. Medical Officer Yoon Tae-hoon joined the growing crowd around Dr. Choi's station. If they're using biological systems, their physiology must be incredibly robust. The chemical processes alone would require, everyone? Park So-young interrupted. The boarding craft just attached to our hull. Whatever they are, they're coming aboard right now. Security Chief Bae Junho stepped forward. Captain, should we arm security teams? Dong-ho shook his head. No weapons. This is first contact with an alien species. We follow peaceful protocols. Everyone stays calm and professional. The bridge doors suddenly hissed and began to glow red hot. Smoke filled the air as something powerful ate through the reinforced metal. With a crash, a section of the door fell inward. revealing a hole large enough for a person to walk through. What stepped through was not a person. War Prince. Kethter ducked slightly to fit his 12-foot frame through the opening. His black exoskeleton gleamed under the bridge lights, and his 4 yellow eyes swept the room with predatory intensity. Acid dripped from his mandibles, hissing where it hit the floor. His massive claws clicked against each other as he surveyed the humans. Behind him came two more Vakthul warriors, equally imposing and terrifying. The bridge crew stared in fascination rather than fear. "Incredible," whispered Dr. Choi, pulling out her scanner. "Look at that bone density. The calcium carbonate matrix must provide exceptional protection against physical trauma." "And those claws," added Jinwoo, "perfectly designed for both combat and tool use. The evolutionary pressures on their homeworld must have been intense." Yoon Tae-young was practically bouncing with excitement. The acid production. How do they avoid damaging their own tissues? There must be some kind of specialized gland system. Kethta's mandibles clicked in confusion. This was not the reaction he expected. Every other species he had encountered screamed, begged, or fainted when faced with his presence. These small, soft creatures were ... studying him. "You will surrender," he growled, his voice designed to strike terror into any heart. "Your species will kneel before the Vakthul hegemony." Captain Dong-ho stood up slowly, his expression curious. "Rather than frightened? You're the Vakthul. We'd love to learn more about your civilization. Are you the local government in this region?" "We are not government," Kethter snarled. "You're your conquerors. We are death itself." "It's fascinating," Dr. Choi murmured, still scanning. "A warrior culture built around intimidation and fear-based dominance. But Captain, look at these readings. Their technology is actually quite inefficient. All that effort put into looking scary has compromised functionality." For the first time in his life, War Prince Kethter felt something completely foreign too. His experience. He felt confused. Admiral Yang Hyanzik stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Bison's Pride. Watching the massive alien fleet approach through the darkness of space, 50 Vakthul warships moved in perfect formation, their black hulls bristling with weapons and glowing with threatening red lights. It was the largest alien force humanity had ever faced. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Jang Suben from the tactical station. "They are using what appears to be an intimidation formation. All ships in a straight line, weapons fully powered, and visible, no tactical flexibility whatsoever." Yang nodded thoughtfully.
"Interesting."
"They're more concerned with looking scary than with actual combat effectiveness." He turned to his communications officer. "Any word from Captain Lee Dong-ho?" "The Harmony is still in Vakthul custody, sir. Last transmission indicated they were being held for what the aliens called processing for slavery." The bridge fell quiet. Yang's jaw tightened. "That settles our diplomatic options." He activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Yang. The aliens have taken our people as slaves. We tried peaceful contact. They chose war."
"Commander."
"Oh." Sungmin's voice crackled through from the destroyer Soul Star. "Ready for your orders, Admiral."
"At Commander Bae-jun-ho. Status on the Daegu Thunder?"
Yang asked. "All systems green, sir. My crew is eager to show these aliens what happens when you threaten Earth citizens." Yang studied the approaching alien formation on his tactical display. As a career military officer, he had studied thousands of battle scenarios. The Vakthul approach was textbook intimidation, designed to make enemies surrender before fighting began. But it was also tactically foolish. "Lieutenant Zhang, implement Strategy 7. Signal all ships." "Strategy 7 confirmed, sir. All ships report ready." The human fleet began to move in what appeared to be a panicked retreat. The 25 Earth ships scattered in different directions, their formation breaking apart as if they were fleeing in terror. On the lead Vakthul ship, War Prince Kethter watched with satisfaction. "Look how they run," he clicked to his officers. "Just like every other species, fear makes them stupid." Sub-Prince Vergen studied the fleeing human ships. "Should we pursue them all, my lord? They're spreading out across the system." "Split the fleet," Kethter commanded. "Hunt them down one by one." Make examples of them. The Vacthal formation broke apart, with groups of ships chasing different human vessels. 25 Vacthal ships followed what appeared to be the main human fleet toward a nearby asteroid field. Another group of 15 ships pursued scattered human vessels toward the outer planets. What the Vacthal didn't know was that the humans had spent 3 months mapping every asteroid, every gravitational field, and every hiding spot in this system. Commander Oh Seung-min watched his scanners as the Vacthal ships entered the asteroid field. "Admiral, they've taken the bait. 25 ships pursuing us into the belt." "Confirmed," Yang replied from his position hidden behind a large asteroid. "All ships execute Phase 2. The scattered human ships suddenly stopped running. They turned and began coordinating their movements with precision the Vacthal had never seen before. Ships that had seemed to flee in panic now moved. With military efficiency, the Sol Star and Daegu Thunder emerged from behind massive asteroids, catching the lead Vacthal ships in a crossfire. Captain Lim Haijin's squadron performed synchronized maneuvers that seemed impossible, using the SE asteroid field's gravity to slingshot around obstacles and attack from unexpected angles. "What is this?" Kethter roared, as human ships appeared from all directions. They were running in fear. His tactical officer clicked nervously. "Sir, it appears they were leading us into a trap. Their retreat was ... fake. For the first time in Vacthal history, their prey had turned and bitten back. The human weapons were different from anything the aliens had encountered. Instead of trying to match the Vacthal's massive energy cannons, the humans used smaller, faster projectiles that struck in coordinated waves. Where Vacthal ships relied on heavy armor and intimidating size, human ships were smaller, faster, and worked together like a pack of hunters." Commander Bae Junha's voice came through the communications. "Admiral, their ships are powerful, but slow. Can't match our maneuverability in the asteroid field." "Confirmed," Yang replied, watching as another Vacthal ship struggled to turn its massive bulk around an asteroid. "Continue the attack. Pattern. Focus on their engines and weapon systems." Captain Park Ji-hoon, commanding the science vessel Incheon Explorer, had been studying the alien ships during the battle. "Admiral, I'm detecting critical weaknesses in their hull design. Those spikes and decorative elements are actually structural weak points. Transmit targeting data to all ships," Yang ordered. The tide of battle turned completely. The cool ships that had seemed invincible began to suffer damage. Their formations, designed for intimidation rather than combat, fell apart under the coordinated human attack. Kethter watched in horror as his fleet was outmaneuvered by creatures he had dismissed as weak prey. "How can they fight like this?" he demanded. "They should be cowering in fear." His communications officer brought disturbing news. "Sir, the other half of our fleet is also under attack. The humans who seem to flee toward the outer planets, they've regrouped and are fighting back there too." For 300 years, the Vacthal had conquered through fear and intimidation. They had never faced an enemy that refused to be intimidated. They had never fought beings who treated warfare as a science to be studied and mastered. As more Vacthal ships took damage, Kethter realized something terrifying. These humans weren't just fighting back, they were learning. Each attack was more coordinated than the last. Each maneuver was more precise. The galaxy's apex predators were discovering what it felt like to be prey. Intelligence Officer Nakval's claws trembled as he entered War Prince Kethtor's command chamber. The massive Vacthal leader stood before a holographic display showing the locations of their recent defeats. Red markers indicated lost ships, damaged fleets, and retreating forces. For the first time in 3 centuries, the Vacthal were losing battles. "Report," Kethter growled, his acid glands dripping with frustration. Nakval activated his datapad with shaking hands. "My lord, we have intercepted thousands of human communications. What we discovered is ... disturbing." "Speak plainly," Kethter demanded. "The humans study warfare as if it were art," Nakval began. "They have entire institutions dedicated to teaching combat. Their young ones play games that simulate battle scenarios. Their entertainment centers around conflict and strategy." Kethtor, 4 eyes focused intently on his intelligence officer. "Continue." Nakval pulled up intercepted human data streams. "Look at this, my lord. It's what they call a military academy. Children as young as 18 years old learn advanced tactics, strategy, and weapons technology. But this is not their only. School for War. The hologram displayed images of human institutions. They have dozens of these academies. In their regular schools also teach military history. Every human child learns about something they call great battles and famous generals. Kethtar studied the images with growing unease. You mean they train their entire population for war? Worse than that, sir? They seem to enjoy it. Knockville activated another data file. These are human entertainment programs. Look at the titles. Battle Commander, Galactic Warfare, Strategy Masters. They play these games for fun. The War Prince watched in horror as the hologram showed humans of all ages engaged in complex strategic simulations. Children moved virtual armies across digital battlefields while laughing and competing with each other. But surely these are just games, Kethtar said, though his voice carried doubt. I thought so too, my lord, until I discovered this. Knockville brought up a new file. Human Military Doctrine. They have written hundreds of books about warfare. Look at these titles. The Art of War, On War, Infantry Attacks, The Evolution of Modern Warfare. Kethtar's mandibles clicked nervously. How many of these books exist? Thousands, sir, and they're not just for soldiers. Regular civilians read them. They discuss them in their schools. Some of these books are over 2,000 years old, yet humans still study them today. The implications were staggering. The Vakthul had evolved as natural predators, relying on instinct and physical superiority. But these humans had turned warfare into a science, studying it, refining it, and passing knowledge down through generations. Show me their history, Kethtar ordered. Knockville's datapad projected a timeline of human civilization. This is what terrifies me most, my lord. Look at their historical record. The timeline showed an unbroken chain of conflicts stretching back thousands of years. Wars between tribes, kingdoms, nations, and continents. Each conflict was more sophisticated than the last. They've never stopped fighting, Knockville explained. Not for a single generation. While other species evolved into peaceful civilizations, humans have spent their entire existence learning how to kill each other more efficiently. Kethtar studied the data with growing alarm. What about their exploration fleet? The ships we first encountered? That's the most disturbing part, sir. Those weren't military vessels. According to our intercepts, the humans we fought were scientists, explorers, and researchers. Their actual military forces are still on their home planet.
Now the War Prince
felt something he had never experienced before. Genuine fear. You mean we haven't faced their warriors yet? Oh, sir. Captain Lee Dong-ho and his crew are what humans call civilians. Their job was to study planets and make peaceful contact with alien species. But even their civilian crews carry weapons and no military tactics. Knockville brought up another file. Look at this communication from their leader, Admiral Yang Hyun-sik. He's not even a professional soldier. His background is in space engineering, yet he defeated our fleet commanders using tactics we've never seen before. The hologram showed intercepted human communications from the recent battles. Officers casually discussed complex maneuvers, adjusted strategies in real time, and coordinated attacks across multiple ships with ease. Listen to this. Knockville played an audio recording. This is Commander Oh Seung-min during the asteroid battle. Notice how calm he sounds. The human voice was steady and professional. Admiral, enemy formation is breaking apart. Recommend we execute flanking pattern Delta 7. If that fails, we can fall back to Tactic 2-3C from the Terran Border Wars. Terran Border Wars? Kethtar questioned. Wars they fought against themselves, sir.
Oh.
On their own planet. They have names for hundreds of different conflicts, and they remember the tactics from all of them. As Tur sat heavily in his command chair, are you telling me that these humans have been practicing warfare against themselves for thousands of years? Yes, my lord. And each war taught them new lessons. Each defeat made them stronger. Each victory gave them new ideas. Knockville's voice dropped to a whisper. Sir, I don't think they're just another species we can conquer. I think they might be natural-born warriors who have spent their entire evolutionary history learning how to fight beings just as intelligent and dangerous as themselves. The greatest predator in galactic history suddenly understood that he had encountered something far more dangerous than any prey species. He had found another apex predator, one that had been training for this fight for millennia. 6 months had passed since the first battle, and the galaxy was no longer the same. General Songmira stood on the bridge of the Earth battleship New Horizon, watching as her fleet moved through what had once been the heart of Vakthul space. The massive human armada consisted of ships that had been built on Earth in just 4 months, a speed of construction that terrified every alien species in the galaxy. "General," reported Captain Ko Youngsu from the tactical station, "we've reached the Vakdal homeworld. Long-range scans show minimal resistance. Most of their fleet has retreated to the outer system." Swangmira nodded calmly. She had studied the intercepted Vakthul communications and knew their morale was completely broken. "Any word from the other Liberation fleets?" "Admiral Park is reporting success in the former Marani system, ma'am. The aliens there are celebrating." In the streets, Colonel On's forces have freed 3 more slave worlds in the Outer Rim. The general smiled slightly. The Vakthul Empire was collapsing faster than anyone had predicted. But it wasn't just human military might causing the downfall. Throughout the galaxy, oppressed species were rising up, inspired by humanity's example. "Ma'am," interrupted Communications Officer Lee Sujin, "we're receiving surrender offers from 17 different Vakthul commanders. They're asking for terms, standard terms," Songmira replied. "Freedom for all enslaved species, reparations for war damages, and complete withdrawal from all occupied territories. Non-negotiable." On the planet below, War Prince Kethtor stood in his once mighty throne room. The walls that had once displayed trophies from conquered worlds now showed cracks from recent bombardments. His advisors had fled, his armies had deserted, and his empire was crumbling around him. Sub-Prince Vergon, one of the few officers still loyal, approached with his head lowered. "My lord, the human fleet has surrounded our world. They're demanding your personal surrender." Kethtor's claws scraped against his throne. "How did this happen?" 6 months ago, we ruled the galaxy, and we hide in bunkers while our former slaves celebrate freedom. The humans, my lord. They changed everything." Through the massive windows of the throne room, Kethtor could see human ships filling the sky. They moved with the same precision and coordination that had defeated his fleets in every battle. But worse than the ships were the communications. Coming from across the galaxy, the Marani had rebuilt their military and were hunting down Vakthal slave ships. The crystal beings of Nithia had formed an alliance with 3 other freed species. Even the peaceful Zephyrians had armed themselves and were patrolling trade routes to protect weaker civilizations. "They're not afraid anymore," Kethtor realized aloud. "None of them are afraid." "No, my lord. When they saw the humans fight us and win, they realized we could be defeated. Fear was our only real weapon, and the humans took it away." A hologram appeared in the center of the throne room. Ambassador Lee Sujin materialized, her expression businesslike rather than triumphant. Behind her stood Captain Lee Dong-ho, the explorer who had been captured months ago. He looked healthy and unharmed. War Prince Kethtor, Ambassador Lee began, "I'm here to discuss the terms of surrender. The Galactic Council has been reformed, with representatives from all free species. Your empire is finished." Kethtor rose from his throne, his massive form still imposing despite his defeat. "You think you've won? You think you can rule the galaxy better than we did? Oh, we don't want to rule anyone," Lee Sujin replied calmly. "We just want the slavery and conquest to stop. Every species deserves freedom." "Freedom?" Kethtor laughed bitterly. "You humans are warriors just like us. I've seen your history. You've fought more wars than any species in the galaxy. How long before you become the new conquerors, Captain?" Lee Dong-ho stepped forward. "You're right that we've fought many wars. But we learned something from all that fighting that you never did. We learned that the strongest civilizations are built on cooperation, not conquest. The difference," Ambassador Lee continued, "is that we fought those wars against ourselves. We know what it's like to be both the conqueror and the conquered. That taught us something you never learned, that lasting peace comes from justice, not fear. Sergeant Ondahai's voice crackled through the communication system. Ma'am, our Marines have secured the capital city. No resistance encountered. The civilian population is cooperating fully.
Arthur
Slumped back into his throne. What happens to my people now? The same thing that happens to everyone else, Li Sujin answered. You get to live free as long as you don't try to enslave others. Your planet keeps its independence. Your people can trade, explore, even compete with other species. You just can't conquer them anymore. Through the throne room windows, Kethter watched as human transports landed in his capital city, but instead of soldiers with weapons, they carried supplies, medical equipment, and engineers. The humans weren't here to destroy his world. They were here to help rebuild it. For the first time, Kethter understood what the humans had really done. They hadn't just defeated the Vactal military. They had defeated the entire concept of rule through terror. They had shown the galaxy that there was a better way. The age of fear was over. The galaxy had learned that even the scariest predator could be stopped by beings who refused to be prey. And those beings, surprisingly, wanted to help everyone become stronger rather than keeping them weak. The humans had become the new apex species, not through conquest, but through liberation. They were apex predators who chose to hunt fear itself.